Were you saying this about Kyler Murray on your show?
I did.
So Matt Patricia might be a JUCKEYE?
There we go.
maybe. You might have to ask him about that next time you're at the Woody and we get him.
So, I might have to pull that clip up. I'm gonna have to go dig through and find it.
Because that's really cool. Like Matt Patricia's my guy. He's a big Sox fan as well. Boston's sports fan in general. So he's my guy for that. And then if he's a JUCKEYE as well, then shoot.
There we go.
I guess we just have him on the show here in a couple of weeks.
But we know Keenan's a JUCKEYE. Keenan Bailey.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, one by one, you build favor with that coaching staff, and maybe we'll be the ones getting all this insider information to filter out to the rest of the media. So, maybe I'll be the guy standing in the hallway getting one-on-one player time after games instead of just trying to fend for a question in press conferences. So, yeah.
Hey, it's Juck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the Lunatic Fringe. Hey, it's Juck. At number one, the most beautiful uniform in all of sport. If they brought back the gray stripes, this thing is so far out in front of everybody, you can't touch it. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the Lunatic Fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the field. So we're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. It is showtime. I'm Juck. He's Dylan. What's up, brother?
Not a whole lot. How are we?
Fantastic. Glad to have you back as we now have, unfortunately, a full quarter of the regular season in the books, but a lot to talk about. The first chapter is done as we look forward to a bye week here to talk about kind of where we've been, and then we'll roll into Washington next week. So how are you feeling? How'd you feel coming out of the game? Obviously, there were some ups and downs, a lot to talk about coming out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly a frustrating night for the Buckeyes, obviously offensively specifically, and obviously a lot of it boiled down to the red zone issues. If it weren't for the horrors of the red zone that we all know and, loathed 2 years ago, I would just kind of write off to, maybe not a good enough performance, but, so be it. But with that in the back of my mind still, and it still being early in the season, it just kind of makes you wonder, but I'm willing to chalk that up to just a lack of execution, early season execution, and they'll get it more straightened, going forward. But overall, I mean, I didn't come away with it overly concerned about anything. Nothing, that I saw really bothered me other than I think what most people would agree is that if the run game is going to be a legitimate factor and going to bring the balance that they want to have offensively, that Bo Jackson has to be a heavier part of it. I think we all generally agree with that. The way Ryan talked today, like they obviously know that as a coaching staff as well, which of course they do. So
let's kick back to that, because when you asked him after the game, right, you led off the press conference after the game, and he was again kind of tamping things down, and that's how the question was asked to him today when we were at the press conference. I'm going to play that right now.
He seems to have an explosiveness that's pretty rare. Yet after the game, you were asked about him, kind of obviously tamped it down a little bit. Is it a matter of just, okay, he's a freshman, let's just not get ahead of ourselves? Or how special do you think he is and can be?
Well, we were just talking about that as an offensive staff. It doesn't take a veteran coach to recognize talent when you see it. And Bo has talent. And we're going to keep bringing him along. It's a long season. And so, we're going to continue to give him the opportunities to prove that we can trust him with the ball in his hands. So far, he's done that. You can see his vision. You can see, his ability to catch the ball. He's got a lot of different skills. We're going to keep bringing him along. And the more he can take, the more we're going to give him. But I also think there's, just like any other position, there's a way you bring guys along. And, the number one thing is ball security, taking care of that football. And then there's pass protection, and then there's, all those things. And he's checked these boxes. I mean, he's doing a nice job. So we're going to need everybody in that room. I think they're all a little bit different, which is unique. So it's our job to put them in a situation to be successful.
So finally, he kind of just comes out and says, all right, yeah, no, there's no more hiding this. I know you guys all see it. The dude's very, very special, and he is a different kind of cat. which it did feel like he was reluctant with you in the press conference after the game. Once again, he kind of led off with, well, like the one question was they start off with the tight ends when he was asked about Bo.
Yeah.
All right. Let it fly, man.
And I also asked specifically about the red zone as well, because it seems like the run game in the red zone, obviously, a big reason why Ohio State was so good and so efficient in the red zone last year is because they could just run the football, just about damn near at will, which goes a long way when the field shortens, obviously, to be able to convert those red zone trips into touchdowns. So my question was more specifically about running the football down as that field does shorten. And then looking at Bo Jackson with his burst and his, the way he can make people miss and just run by guys and things like that. Still has the power that he runs with as well. It seems like that's the kind of guy. Obviously, CJ Donaldson, his body type, inside the 5-yard line, there's something to be said for that too. But the way Bo Jackson can explode through holes and these holes that might not be open all that long, but he can still hit them and get up the field. That turns a 2-yard gain into, a 6-yard touchdown potentially and things like that. So it just seems like that would go a long way in helping with the run game down in the red zone as well. But obviously it's going to help, anywhere else, outside the 20s as well, just because he looks like he's that special of a player who's ready to contribute now. Now, I will say I was happy to hear Ryan talk about that and, about the more he's willing and more he's capable of taking on, the more they're going to give him, which is great. And because I'm glad Ryan said that, because I'll be looking forward to, not because I'm trying to trap Ryan or catch him in a lie or anything like that, but, as we progress, if Bo's not getting more carries or if he even regresses in terms of his workload, I'm going to ask Ryan, like, hey, oh, by the way, like, what did Bo Jackson do in practice that's caused him to take on a lesser role now? Like, did he fumble in team portion of practice, or did he about get Julian killed because he didn't pick up a blitz in practice, or whatever the case may be? Because if we don't see what Ryan just said, we should see moving forward, then something obviously has happened. Bo Jackson did something to prove that he's not ready. And so I will make sure that I will ask Ryan about that if we don't see this moving forward, or ideally we see more of Bo Jackson, and he is a bigger part of this offense. And I think, with him back there being, a 15 to 20 carry guy a game, that Ohio State's offense goes to the next level of, is it the best offense in college football? Quite possibly.
I think you're right. And when in regards to the goal line, so I was talking about these goal line struggles on the Buckeye Huddle Primetime show that we do every Monday and Wednesday live at 8 on the Buckeye Huddle channel. And I had kind of 3 things that I think we could potentially see here. One of them that I would love to see is Bo down by the goal line. Yeah. And, CJ is an imposing physical style of runner. He runs to contact, but he's only like 5 pounds heavier than Bo. It just doesn't look like that because of the way they run. Bo will truck somebody over if they're in his way, if he has no option. And with the added explosion, his ability to get skinny and the elusivity and the burst, it just doesn't make much sense to me. I think you're giving up way more bringing CJ in those situations than you are with Bo. So I think, like you, that is kind of the first, like, check number 1. Let's try this down here. Yeah. Second, I'm just a firm believer in the quarterback having some ability to be the run threat down there. And we've talked about this for years. Last year, we see Will come in, and just the threat of him running, we saw, like, weren't we at like 85%, like 5 games through the season, converting touchdowns in the red zone? It was insane. Number 1 in the country at the time. And I just feel like they've either got to do that, or potentially the Lincoln thing, which I'm not a fan of, though I think it might be effective. The reason I'm not a fan of it is because I think that the third thing is there were the pass plays were there. Julian just got to get in a rhythm and experience and be able to hit them, right? So every time you pull him off, you're taking away those chances for him to get better at those.
And that's exactly right. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if Julian just, made the decisions and went with the football where he should have gone, the red zone issues we're not talking about that coming out of the game as being, the story of the game. So that's absolutely true as well. So I actually wanted to ask Ryan Day about that today, and about the Lincoln Keenholz thing. Today was a lightning round kind of thing. As you know, you were there, where it was just like maybe 8 to 10 questions. So not everybody got a question in, but I actually wanted to ask Ryan about the Lincoln Keenholz situation, the package, and what that's going to look like moving forward, to get a little bit more of an idea on that, because I do think it's here to stay. I think it's going to become an increasingly, mainstay of the offense, is particularly down in the red zone and things like that, which I don't like as well. We saw the Devin Brown thing 2 years ago and how, they tried to do that. They didn't really stick with it a whole lot, but in the short time that they did try to do it, it was, kind of herky jerky. I don't love it as well. But I think it is going to be a very, I don't want to say a big part, but it's going to be something that we see on a regular basis moving forward. And whether that's red zone or not, or just in general, I'm not sure, but I don't like it as well. But to your point again, if Julian just makes the right decisions and makes the throws down in the red zone, we're not talking about it. Add in the Bo Jackson thing, which I think makes a big difference. You said you agree as well. Boom, there you go. Now you've got the makings of a pretty good red zone, attack. So, and maybe it's a non-issue.
And there's one more. Go for it on 4th and goal from the 1.5 yard line. That could have converted right there. Like, we're talking like 3 more touchdowns right there in the red zone if you just do that.
Yeah, I'll be honest, in that game, I didn't love the confidence to go pick up that 1.5 yards, to be honest with you.
You felt like that? Oh no.
In that particular moment, I'm not saying that's where I feel about them as a unit or anything like, but yeah, in that particular moment, it's like, I'm not entirely sure they picked this up. So, I'm not saying that would have been, wholeheartedly against them going for it there, but I didn't fault the decision, to be honest with you.
I'll tell you what, the Lincoln run, I thought it looked really good, man. Really good. And it's like, I wouldn't mind it, but my gosh, does this offense look like an absolute Cadillac of an offense right now? Julian just is progressively getting better and better and quicker with his decisions. We saw him reading all across the field a couple times. And when he sees his target, that's when that release comes so handy. When he's on that read number 3 and you see him click in on it and then it's boom, it's out, it's in. It's a thing of beauty. We are now at number 1 in the country for adjusted completion percentage from a kid in game number 3 who's been throwing the ball and not with short little dink and dunks. That's the other thing. It's the average depth of targets down the field. It's phenomenal. 2nd in completion percentage standard to Carson Beck, who's, a 5th-year senior. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it really, you kind of alluded to it there. It really is a treat to watch, to just watch Julian, watch that helmet go, boom, 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 pull the trigger and deliver the football. And then obviously with that release, it's been a lot of fun to watch. It's a lot of fun to watch him just throw the ball in general. We talked about it, dating back to last year, about how, man, the ball just comes out different. I don't know what that means, but I'm just telling you, if you watch it, it just looks like it just comes out of his hand different, the velocity, the spin on it, and it's beautiful. People are seeing it now. By all accounts, look, he made one bad decision on Saturday. The other one, people are going to think, well, Ryan, this is actually kind of funny. I probably shouldn't even say this, but Ryan, after the game on Saturday, talked about that interception that Julian threw with a spy. The defensive lineman kind of just jumped back into a spy across the window, picks it off. And Ryan said, like, how do you coach against that? That's just one of those things that, you see and you got to learn from and know that it's, it's something. And Ryan just kind of chalked it up to, it being a part of the learning curve and, kind of like the OU defense got him. Like, hey, look, they got you on that one. You didn't see it coming. They got you on it. We talked to Julian as he was coming away from the podium before he walked out the room. And Julian told us that he saw that guy and just thought he could get it over top of him real quick. And he couldn't, and he didn't. So that was a bad decision. That wasn't hey, OU got him, good play call. They got him. That was a bad decision. And again, live and learn, but
good learning decision. Yeah.
I wonder if he actually told Ryan that in film on Sunday as well, that like he actually did see him and thought he could get it past him. Or if, he just went with they got me. Sorry, coach. I'm a 1st-year starter, a true sophomore. They got me. But that's not what he told us. But again, it's neither here nor there because it was a bad decision. You learn from it, move on. You're going to have those growing pains. Have them now against a MAC team at home, as opposed to in Seattle in 2 weeks. And speaking of going to Seattle in 2 weeks, going back to the Lincoln thing real quick, if that's going to be a part of the offense, if they're going to trot that out there, if they have designed to trotting that out there at some point in Husky Stadium in that game, I would really enjoy seeing Lincoln take that first snap and dropping right into a 3-step drop and throwing the football right away, first play, because obviously Washington's going to prepare and they're going to say like, hey, if you see number 3 come onto the field for Ohio State, we're automatically going into whatever their base looks going to be. Like if you see this, we're here, and then they'll work off for that as well. Obviously, with the idea that he's going to, be a run threat wherever they are on the field with that. So I would really like it if they do that, they bring Lincoln out there, that he throws the football right away. And I don't mean some play action where they're trying to bait him on the run because everybody thinks they're going. I mean, go out there and show but yeah, he's going to be a running threat out here, but he's also a capable quarterback, like Ryan always talks about. Hey, the good thing about Lincoln is he can throw the ball as well. Okay, we'll go out there and let him throw it right away and show everybody, both Washington in that game, and everybody who's watching and scouting and saying hey, if you see Lincoln Keno's come on the field, it's not just even an 80% likelihood that they're going to run the football. So I hope that they're ready to do that. Now that in and of itself is really interesting because you're going to be taking a true sophomore first-year starter to Seattle for his first road game in a raucous environment, and you might do a little bit of change of pace with another quarterback by sending him out there for his first true road start of his career and his first real snaps as a starting, or not a starting, but as a college quarterback. So that's a hell of a place to be in, to be putting two quarterbacks on the field, making their first true roads, taking their first true road snaps of their careers. But we'll see.
It really is. I mean, when we think about it, that place is so special. If that was a really, really good team, they're good, but if they were maybe they're probably a couple years away.
Yeah.
If they're in the a couple years from now, I could see that being you might lose this game heading out there just based on this inexperience if that was a really good team. I think the Bucs will have their hands full, but ultimately when we look at the demeanor of Sayin, it's just so confident, nonchalant, and a computer. The kid's like a computer. Unflappable, he seems like. I have a hard time thinking that he's just going to get super rattled. It's going to be really interesting to watch.
He talks like a computer as well. Everything about him is so, kind of robotic almost. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's a good thing to be for a college quarterback, especially this early on. But everything he does is just so robotic. Again, which is a good thing for him. So yeah, I don't foresee him being rattled by the environment out there, or even if they get off to a slow start or he makes an early mistake. I don't worry about that as well. I just know that regardless of whether he's rattled or not, sometimes in environments like that, things can snowball quickly. They just get out of your control. It's not, you make one mistake and, this kind of avalanche starts. It doesn't mean that, you don't rebound from it and play better football, but then it just kind of snowballs from there. That was my only concern with, any kind of early mistakes out of a true sophomore quarterback making his first road start.
Yeah. I also think, like you said there, so I was live streaming during the game, and doing so, you get a lot of live reaction from a lot of people. And I think that the anxiety of the red zone issues, converting touchdowns that we saw just in 2023, lies right there on the surface as this fear. Yeah. And that's why the reaction was so big, because coming out of it, I saw a ton of criticism of Brian Hartline. I'm like, hold on, 600 yards, man. This offense did whatever the hell it wanted. I thought the play calling was really crisp, really balanced. You had 32 runs, 30 passes. They're still kind of figuring out if they want zone or gap scheme to be their bread and butter. It was like a 50-50 split, and you're still probably playing with more of a split with carries with backs than you're eventually going to. Yeah. It was 9-9-7. But the biggest difference, and I don't know if this is here to say, but Hartline talked about it today. The tight ends through 3 weeks, they are 42%. They've used 2 or 3 tight ends in the games, and it seemed particularly heavy this most recent game against Ohio, just tight end galore. And it was wild to see, watching the all 22 back, how many times there were actually 3 tight ends in the game. Do you think this is just game plan specific? I think that's kind of what he alluded to, but I wasn't quite sure what you take away from that moving forward.
I think it is, but I don't think it is. It's always game plan specific, right? First of all, a coach is always going to say that everything they do is for that week's opponent and what they do, but I don't think it's game plan specific in the sense that we're going to see a significant, a drastic shift away from that. I think that's very much here to stay with the tight end room that they have. My biggest, I don't say criticism, but my only thing with Brian Hartline right now, and somebody asked him about it today, is the lack of involvement in the receiver room. So that's maybe the only thing that my criticism of Brian Hartline other coming out of that game or just in the first 3 weeks. But other than that, like you said, 600 yards. And in order to have red zone problems, you got to be down there a lot. So, and again, it's still a problem, but they're obviously, they moved the football at will as we expected them to. You got to get the red zone issues solved. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of gripes about it. But yeah, as far as the tight end room goes, like it's game plan specific, but I don't think there's going to be a drastic shift away from that, just because they can just do so much out of that. You know, whether they're in 12 or you know, or even 13 or 22, whatever the case may be.
So to what you were just talking about, somebody asked Brian Hartline about wide receiver depth.
Yeah.
And he said, I'd like to play more depth. I think that we can play more depth. I noticed being up there that it's been harder for me to get the guys going. So that's a problem. And you know, we'll get that fixed. So basically, a learning curve, how he's going to handle that. And that's kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, look, we talked about that and we all speculated on that when he was named, you know, offensive coordinator, what that would mean for his, you know, job coaching, specifically, you know, being a position coach and coaching the receivers. What's that mean on game days if he's up in the box or he's down the sideline? What decision he makes with that because of the, you know, his want to be with his guys as opposed to, you know, being up in the box. And I think we both agree, like, you need to be up in the box as an offensive coordinator, but certainly it's going to detract from what you're able to do as a position coach naturally. And he referred to that. I said, you know, talking about getting guys ready to play in a game and play more depth really has to start earlier in the week, because come game day, he doesn't really have that ability to you know, figure those things out and make those decisions on game day, because he's obviously preoccupied with calling the entire offense and facilitating the entire offense. You know, obviously that's a filling out processes are all things that you just don't know. You can't figure out until you've done it before and you figure out how it's going to go. So those are things that will improve or presumably will improve.
It would have seemed to me like, I don't know, by game 3, we got this squared away with Devin Jordan making some of these decisions. We talk about it early in the week. And I mean, this is a guy who's been his right-hand man for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I guess that's fair to say. But
it is different though to have a guy with such a big room with so many players.
Yeah,
who's a coordinator. They're usually coaching a smaller group, a quarterback.
Sure. Yeah.
It is different. So he's going to have to rely on him a little more, I would imagine, than maybe that he anticipated. But all in all, I think he's done a really solid job. JJ and Carnell in particular, we talk about it every week, I think, but this week it was a couple of receptions that he had, yards after catch, that looked, by the way, the wide receivers are just blocking so great. That's not just carried over from last year. It's looking even better. And yards after catch, he looks so smooth. The long ball was just a thing of beauty, obviously perfectly placed. Everything about this guy is looking like, yep, I think he is going to be the first overall wide receiver taken.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be the case, you know, and I mentioned this the last time I was on the show, like, you know, shame on me for questioning if we'd seen, you know, the best of what Carnell had to offer, which is still a great thing, because he continues to show that, no, he's, you know, even better than whatever we thought that ceiling might be for Carnell. And we already thought that ceiling was a long time in a long NFL career. And now, like you're saying, he's showing that he's going to be, you know, one of the first couple, 2-3 receivers off the board, if not even potentially the first receiver off the board in the draft. Just he's been remarkable. Obviously it helps to have 4 on the other side to take so much attention, or 4 wherever on the field, to take so much attention, you know, from defenses. But yeah, he's been fantastic. Ohio State has the best, you know, receiver tandem in the country. If there was ever any doubt about that, there isn't any doubt now. Once again, you talk about those two. What?
Are you sure? Because Clemson fans argued with me at the beginning of the season. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, well, they can go argue with the wall too, and debate if this team wins 7 games this year. But anyways, you know, so you know, those two guys obviously, and then that tight end room, and we talk about what Bo Jackson might bring in the backfield. You know, yeah, it's just the makings of the best offense in the country, and we know Julian's going to continue to get better with those two guys. And look, that helps out a lot, obviously, as a young quarterback too. When you have those guys being able to make plays and you just run past guys, go up and high point the football, make plays, and you know, things like that. So that certainly helps out as well. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, man. Like coming out, I'm pumped. Like this, to me, this feels way better and further than I would have assumed they would be after game 3 preseason expectations. And I don't know. There was a lot of negative vibe coming out of that. And I was like, whoa, we are so far ahead of what anybody thought. Like, I talked to all of you guys before the season. Most of you thought we were going to lose to Texas and that was going to be okay. They're learning. You beat Texas, clobber Grambling, and now upset by you almost covered against Ohio, right? It was a 28-point line. You were right there.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this football team, and I think that they're very, very good. I think they're very close to going ahead and, crowning them as the best offense in college football, and we know what they are defensively already. But I really need to see them go put a hurting on Washington in Husky Stadium. Whatever you think about Washington as a team, they're 2 years away, whatever. Washington's feeling really good about themselves. That place is going to be raucous. I need to see Julian go in there and just deliver one of those eye-popping, like head-turning performances that really announces himself to the college football world, because there's going to be a lot of eyes on that football game leading into those 2 night games that night. If I see that, if I see Ohio State go out and put up 38, 41 points in Seattle and win that game convincingly going away, and Julian looked just the same comfortable, Julian that we've seen through 3 games, I'm going to be, my confidence will be through the roof on that. So I'm still very confident again, still really love what we've seen. Like you said, I think they've, surpassed what we thought that we might see through 3 weeks. And I agree with that. But I'm still going to be cautiously optimistic until I just see what Julian does in that offense as a whole, and see what Bo Jackson's going to be and what that running game can be as a result moving forward before I fully, throw all of my stock into what they could possibly be offensively. But I'm certainly very excited about it.
Do you have any disappointment in the other backs? I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if Bo hadn't been given this opportunity to come out and show how different it looks with him, would all the ire right now on the running game kind of be on the offensive line? Because people expect, all right, James was going to be this, CJ was going to be this. James has looked better in the second half last week. It's been a really slow, kind of clunky start for him.
Yeah, that's a good point about the offensive line. I think a lot of people just by default blame it on the offensive line if a run game's not going well. You have to really go back and look at film and figure out on a given play, where assignments were blown, or if a running back just didn't see the hole. If you just, if he met a guy in the hole one-on-one, you've got to make a guy miss, sometimes, and did, whatever the case may be. But it's in terms of disappointment. Look, I might have been one of the leaders of the James Peoples fan club this offseason and thinking he was about to take off and be a big time back in college football. Not to say that he can't be, not to say that he won't still be at some point this year, but through 3 games, it doesn't look like that guy's ready to go be if he had to be, and I know he's not going to have to be by nature of the way that they operate in that room, but if he had to be a 25, 30 carry a game guy for Ohio State's offense, it doesn't look like he's ready to be that to any significant degree or factor for that offense. So yeah, that's been disappointing. You're right. He did look a little better last week, whatever that's worth. So it's hard to just even judge what this run game is or what it should be or where it's going to be right now, because it just seems like like you said, it's clunky. It's not obvious that like the offensive line's fine. This running back room just not getting it done, or this running back room, is ready to take off if the offensive line can just do their jobs. It just seems like it's always kind of like a mismatch of kind of issues right now to figure out what's the real issue, and how fixable is it and where's it going to go. Bo Jackson inserting him into that, rotation or putting him in the games and seeing what he does will go a long way in telling us what we thought we were seeing, or, what we were missing through the first 3 weeks when we were watching that run game. Because if he comes in and just is obviously a different, if the run game just takes another step forward and he's, running for, 85, 90 yards, or even surpassing the 100-yard mark on a regular basis, then obviously there's a decent amount of blame to put on those 2 running backs in front of him. But, we'll see.
I was falling into this kind of NFLification mindset in recruiting when it comes to running backs, where, they don't value the running backs in high rounds, and basically like they're a dime a dozen, not a huge impact on your offense. But watching last year, Trey's season and the ability to hit the big one at crucial times, it's just like, man, I'm all the way back on. Like, I want to have a great running back. It just is so much different. And now when we talk about Bo potentially bringing in David Gabriel George in a couple of years in the 27 class, staggering that out and investing like every other year in a big time back who honestly they usually hit. It's a pretty safe investment, I think. You can see the talent.
I never subscribed to that school of thought anyways, that running backs were a dime or a dozen, that you can go find another one. Like I understood the, you know, kind of the de-emphasis, you know, being placed on in terms that you can find a capable or even a, you know, more than capable running back, but to have difference makers, you can go down the line, you know, for, you know, NFL franchises through the past, you know, 15 years who have difference makers at running back, not he's fine or he's capable, but have difference makers at running back and see what kind, you know, of difference they made in franchises. I mean, go tell the Cleveland Browns right now that that Nick Chubb wasn't a difference maker, or that like they can find another Nick Chubb, because that Nick Chubb before injury was a difference maker for that franchise. And now, right now, I know people are excited about Dylan Sampson and obviously Quinshawn, but right now, you know, a guy like Jerome Ford not getting it done for that offense. So I don't know why I just got off on a Browns tangent here, but so I never subscribed to that school of thought in the NFL either, but I sure as hell don't in college football. I mean, go look at what Ohio State's run game did last year with those two special backs back there, and tell me that wasn't, you know, you can just you can find guys there. So,
and that's what I was thinking about earlier on. I'm like, all right, so no Bo, and we're watching Peoples and Donaldson after watching those two, and everybody said all off season, listen, it's not going to look like that, but it's going to look really good. Nah, man, it would be a big old difference right now if Bo hadn't entered the stratosphere here.
I mean, go back to 2022 in that run game for Ohio State. I remember asking Ryan Day in the Tuesday press conference leading up to the Wisconsin game. They were going to Madison. Trey had been banged up, you know, hadn't played a lot in and out of the lineup, you know, that year. Chips, you know, your leading ball carrier, and the run game was just not good enough, flat out not good enough. And you had a quarterback in Kyle McCord where, you know, like pushing the ball down the field wasn't, you know, any sort of, you know, guarantee or prolific option you had for your offense either, like it is right now. And I remember asking Ryan, you know, like, hey, do you get to a point in the season that was like mid to late October? Actually, I think it was right around Halloween. Said, do you get to a point in the season where like you just are what you are, and like the run game's not going to be much of a, you know, a factor in the way you game plan? I know you have to try to run the ball still, but in general, you're not going to be able to rely on it because you just are what you are at this point. It's October. And he kind of said like, you know, hey, I get your question as well, but we also think that Trey, who was kind of at that point questionable to return that week, we think Trey, you know, could make a big difference in that as well. Lo and behold, he goes and runs for like 130 yards at Madison. Ohio State wins that game. And, you know, you see like Travion Henderson, the player, is what makes that running game, you know, what it could be. And without him in it, you know, when you chip train him, with all due respect to chip train him, it's a bad run game. You insert a player like Travion in there and it takes off. So like, yeah, I mean, the value of difference maker running backs, like, of course.
It's a great lesson. It's a great lesson to continually remind myself.
Yeah.
Let's go over the defensive side of the ball with how you led that off with Matt Patricia.
What does that do to free you up in the back end and what you want to do there?
Yeah, you love to be strong in the middle of the defense, and he is strong in the middle of the defense. He's right there, right in front of the center, right in front of the quarterback. And I think offensively, you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get around this? You know, that's the biggest thing. So that's a key piece for us. He's done a great job, I think, of really improving and showing just how big he can play inside. And sometimes what that does to a defense is it actually allows you to push your defense out a little bit more. Kind of went through that in some of the other nose guards that I've had, or, you know, interior guys that I've had, where guys maybe can widen out some alignments. They can play a little bit off and deeper because it's going to take the play a little bit longer to get to them when you have that ability inside. So I think he's done a great job, but I think those other guys really, you know, Will Smith showed up. He had a couple really good plays, and EDDRICK does a good job inside, and Taiwan. Those guys have all really kind of every single week gotten a little bit better with that technique. I think, you know, KMAC he's just ahead of those guys. He's done a really good job with it.
Obviously, I set that up poorly. That was Caden McDonald is who you asked him about. I thought I had the beginning there.
Yeah.
Caden McDonald was, again, just dominant, absolutely dominant. He was owning. Look, if they put a center head up on him, it's curtains. They can't contain him. He tosses him around like a little rag doll, and when they double team him, you know, they might stop him, but if they do, he's clogging a big lane, and that's kind of what Patricia's talking about. You can widen, and I loved hearing him talk about this. He's wide. You can widen everybody out because it's taking up so much space, taking longer for the play to get to them, allowing them to be a little more flexible. what a difference maker, man. What a difference maker. It couldn't have gone any better. We kind of saw this coming from him based off of last year, but he's really taken the next step. I think as good as anybody could have hoped.
Yeah, I mean, he's been amazing. Nothing short of amazing. Look, as we talked about, at least whenever I would talk about him, or about the defensive tackle, position in general for Ohio State, we always talked about like, hey, it's not about the guys that are going to start games for Ohio State that we're concerned about. Those guys are fantastic. It's about the depth behind them, and also the guys who are starting the game. How many snaps can they play, in a game and be, high level snaps as well, because they're going to need them. And that was always my question with Caden McDonald, because when he's on the field, man, he's unreal. And like you said, he had another fantastic game on Saturday, and that's why I asked that question, because as I sat there, I just wondered, like, how much easier does this make a defensive coordinator's life when you have a guy out there like that, like you said, who's just one-on-one going to beat your ass. And then if you want to double team him there, it's still going to be a stalemate at the line of scrimmage. So it's still going to muddy up everything else you're trying to do there, while freeing up other guys on your defense. So just an absolute difference maker. If it wasn't for the fact that Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in college football and Arbel doing what he's doing, like Caden McDonald's the talk of, that defense right now. Without a doubt, he might still already deserve to be, but it's hard to deny Caleb Downs being the perfect defensive player and Arbel doing what he's doing, and all of his versatility. So, I mean, at three levels there, at all three levels, you have absolute studs and future
That's
NFL
just
stars.
It.
Yeah.
Yep. You got a star at all three levels.
Yep.
And Caden McDonald, certainly that star. Caden Curry, not far behind him right now. The guy is playing with his hair on fire, man. There's not a guy who gives better effort from start to finish of a play. He never stops. And because of that, he's consistently chasing plays down on the backside. They are having a really difficult time containing him too, which is so much even more impressive because he weighs so much less than a lot of those guys up there he's going against. Just a total powerhouse. He looks noticeably bigger and stronger. And he's having fun and balling out there, man. Just really flashing all the time.
Yeah, we talked about this a show or two ago about Caden Curry. Like, literally, it always comes down to it's just effort with Caden Curry. When you look at him, there is nothing physically impressive. I say that as a guy sitting here, doing a show in my basement. I'm not, who am I to judge physical, impressiveness? But like, there's like when you look at him, just compared to your prototypical edge rushers in college football, especially at a place like Ohio State, there's nothing overly impressive about him physically. But he's just an all-effort guy. He's a ton of effort, which is fine because he's still big enough. I mean, he's still big enough to play the position. But then when you pair that with the effort that he has and the relentless motor, that's why you're getting with the performances you're getting out of Caden Curry and the production you're getting from him. It's getting hard to deny that he's a legitimate piece. I think we all thought when Bo Atkinson was transferring to Ohio State, we weren't sure what Caden Curry's role was going to be at Ohio State anymore. And he's more than solidified that like he is your, other, primary edge guy, along with Kenyatta. And then certainly what they do with Arbel, sometimes as well. So, but and I'll add to that as well, just in terms of what Caden Curry. I've actually been really impressed with CJ Hicks as well, for what it is and what they've asked of him. I think that the group has that makings of a really strong group for Ohio State, when I wasn't sure depth wise what to expect out of those two top guys, and Curry, Kenyatta, and I guess maybe even Bo to a lesser degree.
Well, Bo is not what I thought he would be. I'll put it that way. But, he has made some plays here or there. But I certainly thought what we were going to be looking at was Kenyatta, getting 40 snaps, and then maybe Curry and Bo would be splitting those 20, right? Like, that's kind of what I thought the starting lineup would be. Curry certainly outperforming Bo and deserves every bit of that. So great to see out of him. Now, there is some concern that some people are having with those defensive linemen not really getting off blocks outside of Curry or the Cadens. Outside of the Cadens, the defensive ends not getting off blocks. Eddrick Houston not getting off blocks, and we saw Eddrick didn't start. Tywan Malone started. Ryan Day was asked about that today, and obviously he wasn't giving up. He wasn't going to say anything about it. He just said, "Yeah, we're rolling. We always roll." They played. He played, but he did end up playing 18 snaps, which was the same as KMAC.
Yeah.
It was the same as Ty Malone. Eddrick, I'm talking. So he played 18 snaps. He just didn't start. Did you take that to mean anything other than, you had a couple penalties last game?
I mean, it's hard to take it any other way than like they were just sending a message, so, and obviously he still played a good amount of time, so it wasn't anything too, significant, but
right.
it's hard to take it as any other way than like they were sending him a message. Don't get comfortable, don't get complacent. You're not being given anything. All those cliches that you hear from coaches all the time. There's kind of a message that but also understanding that he's still a very good player, so he still played a lot as well. So that's the way I took it. I could be completely wrong on that, but I'm trying to think of other scenarios that would make sense for him still to play as much as he did and not start the game. So, but it also could just be that my guy Tywone Malone's a beast and that they needed to get him on the field more. So
he had his best game yet. That's for sure. His best game yet. I
say he's a beast. I was half kidding about that. Nobody needs to get pissed off at me out there. I don't literally think he's about to be an All-American. I'm just saying he's my guy, and he did have his best game so far. So
yeah, he deserves his props for his best game because he has been underwhelming, but that was his best game for sure. So good on him. Do you have any concern with EDDRICK?
No, none. Nope.
No.
That's
okay. He's not played good so far. I also don't have much concern though. He's just a super talented, super smart kid, and I think he's going to come out of it. I expected him to be already ready to go right off the rip this year. Maybe that was a little bit too much of an expectation, but I still think at some point it's going to start clicking, and he's going to start making plays. You
just used the word right there. Like it or not. It was an expectation because we didn't see a ton of EDDRICK Houston last year. We made a lot of projections and about what we thought he would be, what he should be, what we expected to be, and maybe it takes him a little bit of time to get there. Now I understand, at Ohio State and what they're trying to go accomplish, that you don't have all the time in the world to figure it out. But I have no doubt that he will figure it out, and I think maybe there is still some figuring it out there for a guy who's still very young in his career. And we projected that he would be what he would be just based off of the flashes we saw last year. And it was no guarantee ever that it was automatically going to click, from day one. So, yeah.
But all in all, when we look at, there maybe there's a disappointment here or a disappointment there, or somebody maybe a little behind schedule. When we look at the amount of surprises in the positive way, like JAYLEN McClain playing like a little All-American back there.
Yep.
Patricia was talking about him today and just kind of being, Caleb's kind of understudy. And I think that is honestly, they play a very similar style of game. Yeah. JAYLEN's a lot like him, a real heady kind of kid who wants to study and get into that kind of stuff. Like him having this time with Caleb like this, I think is going to pay such big dividends next year moving forward. And just as we watch him continue to grow, because that guy is a total dude, man.
Yeah, I mean, how could it not? I mean, it's how could these receivers who were learning under Emeka Egbuka, not pick up all of that stuff, or Jeremiah's the physical work ethic of Jeremiah, things like that. So how could you not learn or play next to or just be in the same meeting room as Caleb Downs and take a lot from that? If you didn't, then you missed a big opportunity to become a better football player. So I would expect that to be a thing. And we see the physical tools out there. They play. I think you just said they play very similar as well out there.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to hit. He's not afraid to come up and play, and run support, or to come over and hit a receiver. So coming over the middle, as we saw.
I was so mad, dude, when they stopped the clock to look at that. What do you mean? That was the cleanest hit ever. I
think, now I have more faith that they're going to get these calls right than they did, because 3 years ago when they stopped, if they would have stopped that 3 years ago, I said, well, this guy's turned out of the damn game. I don't know how, but he will, because you just always expected, if they called, if they're looking at targeting, they were going to find a way to some kind of indicator, the countless indicators, to throw him out of the game. But I was pretty confident, that he'd be all right in this game, because it was just a perfect hit. Like you said, it's one of the rare occasions in football where you can lay the perfect hit that looks terrible, because that's the way it would happen a lot of times. They would call targeting because it looked bad, and then upon further review, did part of his face mask hit that guy's face mask, helmet to helmet, you're out of here, because it looked bad in the first place. It looked bad. It looked bad in a good way, though, for people who love that kind of football. It looked bad in a great way. And I'm glad that they obviously got it right. But
that's one of my biggest gripes. So I'm like, all right, growing up all my life up until I'm like 35, you see a big hit and it's immediately like, wow. And now you see a big hit and my immediate reaction is looking for a flag. And you've totally changed that. You've taken away that joy from me, because now I'm consistently just looking for a flag. Now, if there's no flag, I miss my celebration.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like, yeah, at that point, it's kind of a muted celebration at that point because it's not in the moment. Now, I totally agree with you. It's nothing new as well. But again, I'm just glad, forget that. I'm glad just, guys aren't being thrown out of the game for nothing these days. Now, I'm glad that, they've altered those things where, fewer guys are losing playing time and teams are being penalized for shit that's not even, targeting or whatever. Pardon my language.
A hell of a challenge against Washington. I was talking about Damon Williams Jr. last week, and I said he reminds me of Kyler Murray. How fast?
Oh, really?
Start. Yeah. Matt Patricia comes on today, says the exact same thing, and he really does. Like he is like quick as a hiccup, man. That first step, and he's running full go. He'll juke you out of your shorts, and it's just like I'm still not really very worried with Arvell spying because of how amazing he looks in that role. Like he looks amazing in every role, but that one in particular, those clips from the end zone view of him spying Parker Navarro, it's like the helmets are matched up across. Navarro breaks out on that one play that he batted down, and Navarro thinks he's going to get the ball off, and Arvell closes so fast he had no shot, and then he tried to kick Kenyatta, which I don't think I've played yet on the show.
That was wild. Yeah,
I'll cut that in. I want to show you guys. This kid tried to kick Kenyatta Jackson. Couldn't believe it. But no, I'm not really worried about the run game because of that.
Were you saying this about Kyler Murray on your show?
I did.
So Matt Patricia might be a JUCKEYE?
There we go.
maybe. You might have to ask him about that next time you're at the Woody and we get him. So,
I might have to pull that clip up. I'm gonna have to go dig through and find it.
Because that's really cool. Like Matt Patricia's my guy. He's a big Sox fan as well. Boston's sports fan in general. So he's my guy for that. And then if he's a JUCKEYE as well, then shoot.
There we go.
I guess we just have him on the show here in a couple of weeks.
But we know Keenan's a JUCKEYE. Keenan Bailey.
Right. Well, hey, one by one, you build favor with that coaching staff, and maybe we'll be the ones getting all this insider information to filter out to the rest of the media. So, maybe I'll be the guy standing in the hallway getting one-on-one player time after games instead of just trying to fend for a question in press conferences. So, yeah. Anyways, I agree with you. Like nothing about Washington scares me specifically. It's just the atmosphere and just the vibes. It's going to be a great place. And I know Washington's an improved football team that they're good enough that they could hurt you on some things. But I agree with you about Damon. Like, I mean, the way that those running backs, the way that defense runs in general, obviously Arvell is going to spy a lot. We saw it on Saturday and the way he runs, but just the way that defense runs in general, Damon might get you for a couple of, plays, maybe extends a drive, and it's frustrating the same way that I thought maybe Parker Navarro would. But in terms of just being a difference maker, a factor in getting you beat, there's no way with the way that Ohio State defense runs. It just doesn't really concern me. And the only way that would concern me is if you give them 2 or 3 extra possessions because you turn the football over, which is always the great equalizer in games against teams with lesser talent, especially on the road and environments. That's how upsets are brewed. So other than that, nothing really concerns me about that Washington offense to the point of like getting you beat.
This defense is so fun to watch, man. I love everything they're doing, and I can't stop going back to like, oh, it's going to be Knowles' defense, which with a couple little twists. Like, yeah, I'm not so sure, man. Things are going real well in there. And now that we're seeing this, it's like this is so much more fun. I mean, I love it. It's just so thrilling to watch this, all the different stuff. And I'm sure it's a nightmare to game plan for, but I love where this team's at.
Watching Matt Patricia and this defense this year is a lot like watching Ohio State and Chip Kelly last year. So many times we'd come away or within football games and be like, man, Chip Kelly's in his bag. Like he is just absolutely pitching a perfect game right now. What Chip Kelly's doing with all of his playmakers and weapons and the way he's able to attack defense. And it kind of feels like the reverse of that defensively this year, watching Matt Patricia with all those guys on defense and all the different things they can do with those guys and just watching some of the things they come up with. Obviously they haven't even scratched the surface of what they might throw at somebody when they really have to, so obviously they did a lot against Texas, but even still, that was, it's week 1, so I know they have plenty more that they can do. So, that's really exciting.
Yeah, and he's really enjoyed, like, he talked about it today, finding a role for as many guys as he can to get involved, which I think we can just continue to see that number grow as we move down the line, because he seems like someone who really, like, if they deserve that playing time, he wants to make sure he finds them a role. And I think that's the coolest thing ever, because I'm just someone who loves watching younger guys kind of get little shots here and there as we go. And then when it's their time, like, we're really familiar with their game. We've seen them flash. They've got confidence. They've done it, as opposed to, you just insert a guy after his guy leaves for the NFL. Here comes the next guy. So I think that's going to get better. I hope we got this guy for a couple of years, at least, man. I would sure hate to see him off to the NFL after the season, but he might be playing his way into that, man.
We talked about this, after the press conferences. I think he might be playing his way into getting the interest and garnering the offers. But
yeah,
as happy as he seems right now, just as it seems like he's having so much fun, I question his, excitement for going back to the NFL and what that world is compared to, what he's able to do right now after just 1 year. And that's the only thing that keeps me hopeful that he'll be here for multiple years at Ohio State, is because I think he seems like he's in such a different place now, and he's in such a great place, and he's having a ton of fun, given the way he left the NFL, in those circumstances, his last, couple of years in the NFL. I feel like he's going to want to see it out for at least more than 1 year. And also, as we know, he might garner some interest and garner some offers, but the right one doesn't come. Why not just stay at Ohio State and continue to build up, your stock again until the right one does come, Colin. So I tend to believe he'll be here next year. Obviously, that's just what I believe.
How old is he? Do you know how old he is offhand?
No, that's a great question.
Is he about 55? I listened to a 55-year-old talk to you. Let's play this. I want you to listen to this 55-year-old real quick.
They want me gone. If they tired of winning, they can send me on their way, because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. To win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we're a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory, in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last. Always has been. Always will be. And I would just say, if you give up on us if you don't believe in us because we've lost 2 games down to the last straight and you didn't believe in us anyway, so it don't matter. You wasn't all in anyway. If you're all in, you burn the ships, man. There ain't no exit strategy. Like, you're freaking all in. And hey, listen, if Clemson's tired of winning, they send me on my way, but I'm going to go somewhere else and coach. I ain't going to the beach. Hell, I'm 55. I got a long way to go. Y'all going to have to deal with me for a while. I got a long way to go. I'm just getting going. I'm just now good enough to be a head coach.
I've got so many thoughts on this, Dylan. So many thoughts. This guy is, first off, we just heard this kind of talk from him 2 years. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we say anything about this stuff and our thoughts, let me just say that he's not wrong about anything he said. Now, with that being said, go ahead.
Correct. He's not wrong. But when we got to listen to a guy multiple times over the course of a couple of years recite his accomplishments in his roster himself, like, I do that for Ryan Day when I'm backing him up.
Right.
Ryan Day ain't up there saying, here's my resume. I've done this, this, and this, and this.
Never once. I've never heard Ryan ever,
No.
not one time ever tout, like, I've done this, I accomplished this, we did this. Never.
No. And it's fantastic what he's done as a head coach.
Yeah.
He's got one flipping knock on his resume.
Right.
Dabo, I've heard him run down that flipping list like 5 times over the last couple of years. And that's embarrassing, number one. Like, have a little self-awareness, pal. If you're defending yourself like that after 3 games, like we just heard him 2 years ago when they were, that abysmal season, that 7 or 8 win season they had a couple of years back. And then they make it to the playoffs last year. Luckily, they got into the conference championship game, had a miracle to win that conference championship game.
Yeah.
Get into the playoffs, get blown right back out. Come in this year, they got 3 potential first rounders. The defense is supposed to look good. You get Tom Allen, you got Riley calling plays. They're 1-2 national. I had him in the national championship game. I'll never believe in this guy again. But the way he's talking here is almost if he doesn't understand that everybody sees those accomplishments he did, those 4 national championships. Like, that's never happening again for him the way he's running this program. Never. And he thinks it is.
And that's the thing too, like just given what we know about Dabo's approach, the way he wants to build his program from here or moving forward in a completely different world of college football than it was even 2-3 years ago. Knowing that for him to talk like this is just wow. But like to me, who's he threatening? It sounds like he's threatening somebody. I don't know, somebody at Clemson. Or, it sounds like he I don't want to say fearful for his job, but he worries about his standing in that program.
Yes,
it almost seems like he was threatening people, like hey, you want to fire me? Good luck. I'll remember that, and good luck.
I'll go coach somewhere else. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and good luck trying to find this level of success again. Which again, he's not wrong. We know what Clemson was before Dabo got there, and I promise you, whenever I don't say I promise you, but there's a very better than likely than not chance that when he leaves, that program is going to fall back to some degree. For their sake, I couldn't care less, but for their sake, for Clemson fans' sake, hopefully not all the way back to what, the Clemson that I grew up with and what I knew of them, which was obviously, we know Clemsoning was a word and, that program was an afterthought, some good years here and there.
Fine program. Yeah.
Fine program. Exactly. Yeah. Fine program. So again, he's not wrong in anything he said, but it's so weird. And I don't know I also don't know the context of, what spurred that on. Was he asked a question, or did he just feel like he needed to go, talk about what's being said out there? I don't really know the answer to that. I just saw the clips that everybody else saw on social media. But depending on, if he wasn't provoked, or was, kind of just went off on a tangent from another question into like, oh, by the way, you want to talk shit about me or, try to push me out of here, I'll go somewhere, but good luck, finding this level of success again. I don't know, but very weird. Not the first time, as you mentioned. And if you're at that spot in your program now where you have to kind of defend yourself in a press conference after your second loss in 3 weeks, it's I don't want to say you're not long for it, but it doesn't seem like your program's going in the direction where those very people that you're threatening and talking to and telling them to go away should have a lot of confidence inspired in them. If this is what you're doing at a Tuesday press conference following your second loss of the season already. So
it's that, and it's also all the way in. And I think that a lot of Clemson fans would be all the way in if he wasn't like he wants to say, yeah, we brought in they brought in 3 transfers the entire time he's been there. You cannot make your team better, and everybody else is in this area. And if I was a fan of this football team, I would be pulling my flipping hair out. You mean to tell me everybody around the country can go get better in the offseason and we can't? It's just absurd to me. It's so absurd.
Well,
and I could not back this guy if I was a Clemson. I could not.
The very line that it's a program that's built to last and always has been. A, it's not always been. That's not a program that's always been built to last. A, and B, the very way that you're operating, like the foundation, where what you perceive to be the foundation of your program is not built to last. It's quite the opposite of built to last, because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage all because of you're just being stubborn. So that's quite the opposite of built to last. Tough times for Clemson fans, because obviously they were already reeling after the loss in the first place. And when you look at their schedule, I know Florida State is definitely on it for sure. South Carolina at the end of the year, which jury's still out on what that South Carolina team even is. But there's absolutely another 1 or 2 losses on that schedule. I promise you that, especially with the way they're playing right now. There might be 3 losses on that schedule still left the way they're playing right now. So it might only get worse. And then to have him again come out here and do this again. It's I want to say it's odd, but it's not. It's Dabo, but I know it has to be exhausting for Clemson fans, to have to go through this again. So,
well, we're seeing contenders drop like flies. Notre Dame, I think they're cooked. Clemson, I think they're cooked. And I don't know, Dill. When we look around, Penn State, we got the big Oregon test coming up, and I originally thought, all right, you got Penn State in a whiteout. And I anticipated by week 3, we would see them totally humming. Drew Aller, with his new fancy receivers, has almost regressed compared to last year earlier.
Oh, no, shocker. Who could have seen that coming?
Look, man, that was my pick to win the national championship. So we're talking about the two teams I was really high on here outside of the Buckeyes. These two, and actually Oregon was the other team. Well, Oregon exceeding expectations. These two, not so much. I now think that Oregon's going to go in there and beat them in the whiteout.
Yeah, I haven't really given a whole lot of thought about who I think is going to go in there and win that football game. I mean, the whiteout, as any Ohio State fan knows, wouldn't scare me at all anyways, because I've seen plenty of really good football teams be able to go in there and conquer the whiteout and get through that. So that element of it, while it is an awesome it's the best atmosphere in college football, don't get me wrong, Oregon plays in a pretty great atmosphere as well. Like, I don't think they're going to be fazed by that as well. So it just really comes down to who's a better football team right now. Hard to argue that's not Oregon, obviously, for obvious reasons, just watching these two teams do that. But I'm still not going to sit here and say that I'm a firm believer in Oregon going in there and just, I don't want to say dominating, but convincingly winning that football game in the way that I have heard a lot of people kind of start to shift to that narrative now, and kind of putting this Big Ten as a Ohio State Oregon thing, and kind of already starting to exclude Penn State. I'm not ready to do that yet at all.
I got to see Drew Aller step it up, man. I got to see him step it up. Like, it's baffling to me, honestly. Like, we know that obviously he's had problems in big spots against good teams, but against peons, he used to light it up, and it's not clicking yet.
Yeah.
So,
look, Penn State, I think everybody agreed that on paper they had the most complete roster returning in college football, which was by and large why they were, a lot of the media, the preseason darlings in the media and whatnot. I've said time and time again that I'm just not a big Drew Aller guy. I'm just not a big believer in that throwing the James Franklin, narrative, or the whatever you want to call it, where he can't win football games of this nature. And then, makes me wonder, is Penn State really primed to go on this Ohio State-like run from a year ago that everybody just assumed like this was the recipe? You bring all these guys back and go make a national title run. And I question that. And maybe they still can, but it's just going to be a big prove it Saturday for both those programs, because if Oregon does go in there and beat their ass, it's absolutely time to start talking about Oregon as, one of the two best teams in the country, two or three best teams in the country. And it's time to ask ourselves, well, it'll certainly be time for Penn State fans to ask themselves at what point, like if not now, then when, for James Franklin as the leader of the Penn State football program, and then moving forward, what does that mean? So just really excited for that game because it's a big prove it game. I'm really excited Ohio State gets to play at 12:30 because I had got a chance to see the second half of that game now. So I'm really excited for that one because, we're going to learn a lot about both those programs, one way or the other.
We got Michigan, Nebraska coming up. I'm really pumped to see that one. Of course, Michigan does not have Sherrone Moore on the sidelines. They're going to have Biff Poggi. He's not.
Addition by subtraction.
Yeah, I guess it is. He's not even allowed in the facility all week.
Right.
So different than the Harbaugh suspension for game day, which was total nonsense.
Yeah.
So they're going to head out there very quietly. Dylan Raiola has been putting up Julian Sayin like stats right now.
Yeah. So
that's going to be a really interesting game. I'm really looking forward to that one. Go Big Red. You got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, go Big Red, but I think Michigan wins that football game. So I think it'll be a really good football game. Should be a great it will be a great atmosphere in Lincoln. I know that much. It might be one of the better atmospheres we've seen in Lincoln in, I don't know how many years. So that's going to be really good. A lot of fun to watch. I think Michigan goes down there and gets it done. I am actually going to buy into take the reins off of Bryce Underwood a little bit and let him be the quarterback that everybody thinks he is, and I think he is as well. I think he's going to be a very, very good one. I think you start to see flashes of that on Saturday, and I think they win that football game.
One of the games I'm most looking forward to is this Texas Tech Utah game. Utah is obviously a program that I've just always loved it, man. It's like Whittingham does it right.
Yeah.
They're fun to root for when they get good. They play hard-nosed football. They got a bunch of big Polynesians, which is always fun. And Texas Tech, the best roster money could buy in one offseason. Right. And boy, did they spend it. And they've got a ton of new pieces. They very quietly beat the hell out of everybody the first three games. And now this is like, okay, these are like just two like top 20 teams. Who is going to be the kind of king of the Big 12 this year, and I think that one's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
I'm going to take Utah.
Just saying Utah, Texas is, going to be a big football game is fun. And for people who aren't familiar with Lubbock or, just, Texas Tech fans in general, like it's fun when Texas Tech is good. Like it's a fun place to be in when Texas Tech matters. Even in basketball, when they had some good basketball teams recently, Lubbock, Texas is a fun place to be when Texas Tech is good. Been there before, been around that before. Going back to the Graham Harrell, Michael Crabtree days when they were really good. Like, Lubbock, Texas is fun. That atmosphere is fun when they're good. So I'm all for Tech being a like you said, best roster money can buy. Spend it well. If that's the case, so be it. I'm all for Tech being a good program here for a little bit. It's not sustainable. We know that, although there's plenty of oil money down there, as we know. So, but for however long it lasts, I'm.
Dylan. Well, guys, I guess we lost Dylan. Dylan was telling us about Lubbock, Texas, and he's been there a lot of times. I didn't know. I thought he was just talking about Texas Tech when they're good. It's fun to watch. Anyway, his computer cut off, so we were going to end the show, but we're coming on to wrap it. We're going to wrap it here properly. Hey, it happens to the best of us. So, Dylan, any final thoughts on the Buckeyes, on the games this week as we head into to our bye week?
I wouldn't say final thoughts so much. I do think there was a lot of talk, not a lot of talk, but Ryan was asked about like the bye week placement. Obviously, he doesn't have a choice in where it's placed at, but just what he thought about the bye week. I think it's a really good place. If you're going to have 2 bye weeks in a season, I think it's a really good place for Ohio State to have one. So I'm excited about that. Personally, I'm excited to have a week off as well and just watch college football. But I think for Ohio State as a program and for a team, I think it's a really good place to have that first bye week. So, you kind of come up for air. Ryan talked about like how much went into the month of August in preparation for Texas, and then you carry that into 2 more weeks. It's a great opportunity to come up for air, kind of reset, figure out what you liked, what you didn't like through 3 weeks, and then have 2 weeks to prepare for your first road trip, conference road game of the season. So I think that falls on a great place for Ohio State. So I'm excited for them in that sense. And then this for me personally coming out of it, I'm just excited to be able to watch college football this weekend. So excited for it. I play golf on Saturday morning and watch college football all damn day. Like, I'm so pumped for it.
It's great, bud. That's great. Well, I'm happy for you. And I appreciate you joining us as you do every week here at Juck on Bucks. Dylan, have a great night. Folks, I don't have any other updates for you, so we're just going to sign out now. We'll talk to you later.
Appreciate y'all.
Hey, it's Juck. And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. Start.